that, there's really no big there. And yet this clown goes on TV talking about, no, there's a big there. That's funny because you said there's no big there. The no is kind of an important part of that sentence, the no big there. I appreciate a lot of your listenership as always, but the interview this weekend with Devin Nunes, we did an interview show. We launched it on Saturday. Did very well. I interviewed Carter Page briefly at the end as well. Nunes had some interesting takes, Congressman Devin Nunes. He even jokes, Joe, I know you listened to it, but he joked in the middle of the interview that we didn't even need the Nunes translator because it was Nunes and he could translate himself. So, he finds the Nunes. I've become friendly with Congressman Nunes. He's a wonderful human being, and we laugh a lot, both on the air and off the air. But the congressman was on Maria Bartiromo's terrific Fox show, one of the best, seriously, one of the best, on Sunday Morning Futures, a must watch. She's just always ahead of the news cycle. She's always been fascinated by the Spygate scandal as well, because, journalism and stuff, she actually does that. Shocker. She's one of the few people who does anymore. But she had Congressman Nunes on this weekend talking about a story we addressed last week, and I'll touch again briefly now, how Bob Mueller's witch hunt team, the team that was supposedly investigating Trump for fake collusion that never happened, that the Mueller team knew didn't happen from day one because the FBI basically told them it didn't happen. So what were they investigating? They were investigating Trump. They were investigating collusion, trying to keep the heat on Trump, to give the FBI time to clear up its Spygate scandal, and to keep the heat on Trump so they can impeach him. That's the only purpose of the Mueller probe. I'm very sorry if you've been coaxed into believing other falsities. There was no Russian collusion investigation because there was none. So we now know that Mueller's team wiped their phones clean. Weird. Crazy how 31 phones by the Mueller team investigator, they were put in airplane mode so they couldn't be accessed over Wi-Fi. And after they were put in airplane mode, they entered the password 11 times. Why? Because after the 10th time, the 11th entry of a fake password wipes out the phone. Wow, strange. The utmost integrity, Bob Mueller and his team. Wiping the phones clean so we can't read their texts? When did that happen? Didn't I tell you this last week, by the way? Wouldn't it be Come on. I was bunting last week because I know you're brilliant. I had a bunt last week because I didn't want to say anything yet. And I said to you on Friday, wouldn't it be super weird? Remember this, Joe? If Mueller's team erased their phones and their texts right around the time that Mueller found out that Peter Strzok and Lisa Page from the FBI, who were investigating Trump, remember when their texts went public and Mueller found out in July? Wouldn't it be weird if those texts about how we're going to get Trump, the deplorable, smelly Walmart people, we're going to prevent him from being president, right? Remember those texts, the insurance policy? Wouldn't it be weird if Mueller got those from the investigator, the IG? Hey, Bob, we got a problem. Remember, Peter Strzok was on the Mueller team too.
Yeah.
Bobby, we got an issue. Your lead FBI investigator, this clown Peter Strzok, was texting his girlfriend, who's also involved in the case. We're going to stop him from being president. That's a problem. Mueller's team's probably like, holy shnikes, we have texts too. What do we do? Wouldn't it be weird if they deleted them at the exact same time? Well, the brilliant Congressman Devin Nunes addresses this very issue with Maria Bartiromo. Check this out.
This, it looks like it occurred at a very interesting time. This is when the Lovebirds text messages were discovered. So clearly after that, everybody on the Mueller team went and wiped their phone. So the question here is was there an investigation? Because if there was, that could be obstruction of justice. But I think regardless of that, this is destruction of federal records. We cannot have a justice system, whether it's at the federal level or the state level or local level, where records are being destroyed, Maria, because, that's how we have a fair and equal justice system here, that if there's misconduct of any kind, that you can go back and look at what the prosecutors were doing. And look, this is very relevant. If I was in General Flynn's shoes right now, I'd be furious. And I think that as all Americans should be upset about this. But for the Republican Party has to prioritize this, that these guys are prosecuted and held accountable. This was a witch hunt against our party, against a political party. They politicized and weaponized. Just like Director Ratcliffe said, they weaponized this intelligence. They knew, and I'll just finish with this part. Remember, All of these witch hunters on the Mueller team knew the day they walked in the door that there was no evidence of collusion. So what they were doing is they set an obstruction of justice trap. And I've spoke directly to attorneys that dealt with these people. The stories that come out of there, and they have attorney-client privilege, so they can't talk about who they were representing. But they've all come to me, Maria, and I don't mean just one. I mean several have come to me and said how out of control they were, the threats that they were making to their clients. And here you have it. They wiped some 30 phones. This is so wrong. It's infuriating.
As always, Congressman Nunes has a way of splitting the fog and getting right to the point. Wouldn't it be really weird if the lead FBI investigator responsible for the fabricated case against Trump they used to spy on him, if the lead investigator who's then working for Mueller, his texts, Mueller gets his texts are devastating. We're not going to let Trump become president, right? Right? No, we'll stop it. Those were his texts with Lisa Page, Peter Strzok's text. And then Mueller figures out, wow, we may have a text problem too. And they wipe out their phones at the same time. I kind of bunted that to you on Friday. That whole July Civil War period, I call it, which I cover in my second book on the topic, Exonerated, extensively. Mueller gets the text, realizes investigation has a bunch of problems, biased investigators like Peter Strzok saying they're going to stop him from becoming president. Not an unbiased investigator texting that. All of a sudden, Mueller doubles down. They go arrest George Papadopoulos, raid Paul Manafort's house. Why? Because they're afraid these texts are going to distract from their real mission, which is to make Trump look guilty. So we might as well go arrest a few people. So Nunes makes 2 points in that interview. The first one, that it's time for the GOP to go on offense right now because it's pretty clear the Mueller team wiped out evidence that's federal property on federal phones. Yeah, kind of a problem. Good for the congressman. When is the GOP going to grow a pair? I'm not talking about a pair of fingers. I'm talking about a pair. Well, is that ever going to happen? Are we ever going to see GOP pair growing? Testosterone injections. I don't know how that works exactly. I'm not sure if we're ever going to see it. I don't think so. They don't seem to care much that the Mueller team basically investigated a non-crime and then wiped out evidence that they knew it was a non-crime while they continued to investigate said non-crime. But he makes point number 2 that Mueller knew right away that they weren't investigating collusion because it wasn't real. Did he? Yes, he did. And I can prove it to you right now. But before I do that, see, they know this is a problem. Here's the clown, Peter Strzok, lying clown, which is even where he'd be a clown. Some clowns don't lie. This is a liar. Here's Peter Strzok on the news this week, and he has a new book out, a new book where he couldn't even figure out how he opened up his own case. We covered that last week because he's kind of a dunce. Here's Strzok on the news this weekend, continuing to humiliate himself, the FBI, and everyone else, by suggesting on a national news program that, no, he still has information that Trump's a Russian colluder, despite nobody on the entire planet having this information but this joker. Check this embarrassment out.
With your theory of the case of why you believe President Trump is compromised.
Well, good morning, Chuck. It's great to be here. Look, I think it is clear, I believed at the time in 2016, and I continue to believe that Donald Trump is compromised by the Russians. And when I say that, I mean that they hold leverage over him that makes him incapable of placing the national interest, the national security ahead of his own. That takes a variety of forms. I worked counterintelligence for over 20 years, and I recruited spies during that time, and I defended against those people who were being recruited in our government. One of the largest ways that people, foreign governments, gain leverage, certainly in the case of the president, is through financial entanglements. And I think when you take a look at the Trump financial enterprise, particularly its relationship with Russian monies, and potentially those related to organized crime and other elements, that those interactions have placed him in a position where the Russians have leverage over him and are able to influence his actions.
So this clown, who in his own book can't figure out the timeline about how he opened his own case. We covered that last week. He got the whole timeline wrong. The Australians came to us after this Trump speech. No, dude, they came to you the day before. How would they came to you worried about a Trump speech that hadn't happened yet? Oh, my bad. So clown, Strzok, is on the air now because he knows what Devin Nunes said is big trouble for him. He's the lead investigator into Trump and then goes on to work for the Mueller team as well. Strzok, that is. So if he was the lead investigator into Trump, He's now suggesting to Chuck Todd, there's information, Joe. They have leverage over Trump. He's still saying this. Nobody's found this information of the collusion. He's still saying this. And Nunes's point is, this is why Mueller erasing their phones is such trouble, because they knew from the start that what Strzok is saying, they had leverage over Trump, the Russians, is a complete nonsense story. So they're probably deleting their phones because they're probably texting each other on government phones, Mueller's team, saying, do you have anything? Do you have anything? No, there's nothing here, guys. Well, let's keep investigating them anyway. You may say, but Dan, how do you know Strzok, who's the most read-in guy in this whole case? He's the lead investigator on Crossfire Hurricane into Trump and the lead investigator on Trump's team, on Mueller's team, excuse me. There's no one more read-in than him. So why wouldn't we believe him, Joe? Isn't it worrisome that he says, no, I'm really serious. I know something about Trump and his ties to Russia. Well, maybe we should take his own word for it. Strzok, right? When he said this at the Hill, you don't take my word for it. Let's take Strzok's word about this information he allegedly has. Here's a piece by John Solomon from 2018, which will be in the show notes again for you to read because it's worth bringing up again. Opinion. One FBI text message in the Russia probe that should alarm every American. Wouldn't it be weird if the text was from Peter Strzok? Clearly, Joe, if Mueller's team is right and they have nothing to worry about, and Strzok is right that there really was collusion there, this text should be devastating. We got him, right? That's what it says? Yeah. We got him. We got loads of information on Trump, Russia. This is bad. Get ready for the text. Get ready. This is Peter Strzok's text. Not a joke. Right. It's not the Babylon Bee. If you don't mind, Paula, put up that screenshot. So the text message was transmitted on May 19, 2017, right around the time Mueller's appointed. Strzok's been investigating Trump for a year now. Here's the text. What does it say, Paula? Am I reading this right? We got him. There's a big there. We've got, no, that's not what the text says. The text says, quote, there's no big there. Strzok, wait. Backing away from I'm sorry. I know you audio listeners say that. The text on May 19th of 2017 from Strzok is there's no big there, talking about his role in the Mueller probe investigating Russian collusion. He just said he had information on. Chuck Todd asked him about that. He's been investigating Trump for a year. The investigation starts in July of 2016. He transfers to the Mueller team in May of 2017. Roughly a year later for the liberals. I know that's hard. And he texts his girlfriend, who's the lead FBI lawyer on the case, the lead FBI investigator, as he's moving over to the Mueller team, that, there's really no big there. And yet this clown goes on TV talking about, no, there's a big there. That's funny because you said there's no big there. The no is kind of an important part of that sentence, the no big there.
You just heard Dan Bongino.